Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe family of companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Another hot day in San Diego County. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. An excessive heat warning was issued today for the Valley region, lasting until 9 o'clock tonight. And more hot weather could be in store. Meteorologist Jeff Cornish has our first look at the forecast.
Well, we have some heat, big-time heat here over the next several days. Excruciating heat here, extreme heat for many in the interior. Tonight's overnight lows in places like Borrego Springs will only take us down to 79. That's not much relief out there. We will be a little more comfortable tonight into the 60s, closer to the coast here. And we'll have those low clouds that do help us out a little bit in the morning along the coast before the sun returns. Excessive heat warnings continue for most inland areas. We're going to have the full forecast and try to find some relief in a bit.
After nearly a year, the Miramar Reservoir is back open to boats. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says it marks the successful installation of an underwater pipeline meant to increase the local water supply.
San Diegans can once again bring their boats, canoes, kayaks, and float tubes to the Miramar Reservoir. The city-owned reservoir reopened to recreational on-water activities this past Saturday. Tori Thomas and his friends brought kayaks and fishing poles to the reservoir on Tuesday.
We're here to do some bass fishing. We're glad the lake is reopened. It's been about a year now, and this is our local lake, so we're glad to get back on the water.
The city closed the reservoir to boats in September to install a mile-long underwater pipeline. It's part of the city's effort to reduce San Diego's dependence on imported water. Right now, most of the water in the Miramar Reservoir comes from the Colorado River. Amy Dorman oversees the Pure Water program. She says purifying recycled water will help the city achieve a drought-proof water supply.
We recently had a good rain year, but if you've lived here more than 5 to 10 years, you know that we also get our share of drought cycles. So Pure Water in this first phase is producing 30 million gallons a day of drinking water that we can put back into our supply system.
Dorman says the new pipeline will start delivering water to the Miramar Reservoir in 2026. The city's goal is for the Pure Water program to produce nearly half of San Diego's water by 2035. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
A recent Supreme Court ruling has paved the way for more cities to put homeless camping bans in place. Now, San Marcos could be the latest to follow suit. City Council is set to consider such a ban tonight. According to the county's most recent point-in-time count, San Marcos had around 35 people experiencing homelessness. The city says the goal of a proposed ordinance is to protect the quality of life of all San Marcos residents. Local advocates say bans like this won't solve the issue.
People will move and will just continue to move around, which doesn't help solve homelessness. It actually prolongs homelessness, makes it harder and more expensive, makes people actually experience more trauma, and makes it harder to bring people back into community.
If approved, the city says the ordinance will be presented at the next regular meeting for a second reading. If approved again at that meeting, it would take effect 30 days from that date. A new law will mandate California schools to teach students about the dangers of fentanyl in health classes. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco shows us why advocates say education is crucial.
When Ariana Alvarado was 12 years old, she got a phone call she wasn't prepared for.
I was very confused. At the time, I didn't even know what fentanyl really was.
Her childhood friend overdosed. The tragedy deeply affected her. It also motivated her to educate her peers about the dangers of fentanyl. Last summer, she participated in a Narcan awareness project.
People are like, why do I need Narcan? Like, why would I need Narcan? I don't do drugs like that. Like, I don't do any hard drugs. But in reality, it could be like, you never know. Like, you never know what has fentanyl in it. You never know when somebody could need their life saved.
Governor Gavin Newsom signed a new law this month mandating California school districts charter and private schools, with existing health classes to teach high school students about the risks associated with fentanyl. San Diego Assembly member David Alvarez authored the legislation.
We certainly don't want social media or other places of misinformation to become the center of information for young people.
As a father of a middle schooler, Alvarez understands the challenges of discussing drugs.
It's really, really difficult, as I know, for teenagers to have conversations about these serious topics with families, but hopefully this starts to open that door so that families can feel comfortable and also can feel that their children are receiving the right information in order to make better decisions.
Jim Crittenden supports San Diego school districts with substance abuse prevention efforts.
I think this is a tremendous first step. I think it's overdue, and we do need to get that fentanyl education out there to the older kids in high school. But the true prevention efforts really need to start a little bit younger.
Ariana believes that if more kids were educated about fentanyl at a younger age, it might have saved her friend's life.
Like, she would still be here. She would have been able to graduate college, but unfortunately, like, it was too late. And fentanyl, it kills just like that. It doesn't even take much time for it to take a life.
Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
Former President Donald Trump is preparing to announce his running mate, but uncertainty around President Biden's re-election bid may have injected new factors for Trump and his advisors to consider. Our Washington correspondent Julia Benbrook has details.
Former President Donald Trump is entering a critical stretch of his presidential campaign, preparing to hold several rallies, kick off the Republican National Convention, and select a running mate.
I haven't made final decision, but I have some ideas as to where we're going.
Trump's summer plans have been overshadowed by the dramatic fallout over President Joe Biden's lackluster debate performance last month. And with lots of uncertainty on the other side of the ticket, Trump's campaign is trying to navigate how to maximize the rollout of his vice presidential pick.
We wanted to see what they're doing, to be honest, because, it might make a difference. I don't know.
Trump's search for a running mate has primarily focused on three names: Florida Senator Marco Rubio, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Though Trump once measured his potential picks by how they might stack up against Vice President Kamala Harris in a one-on-one debate, some Trump allies emphasize that those calculations would change if she's elevated to the top of the Democratic ticket.
If Biden steps down, Harris is going to have to pick somebody to help her. If she does become the nominee, this is a dramatically different race than it is right now today.
Despite calls from within the Democratic Party to step away, Biden says he is committed to staying in the race.
Trump's campaign views Monday, July 15th, the opening day of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, as the deadline to present his vice presidential choice. With party business scheduled for the morning, the announcement could take place right before the official nomination. Reporting at the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
2/3 of office holders in San Diego, Imperial, and Riverside counties have received threats. That's according to the second phase of a USD survey on harassment of elected officials. KPBS's Amita Sharma says the poll's initial findings also show harassment of white male politicians appears to be growing.
Of the 2/3 of elected officials who reported being threatened, the survey showed no significant difference in race or party affiliation. But initial findings did show a huge gender gap. 8% of men reported weekly intimidation, compared to 31% of women. 38% of men and 69% of women say it happened monthly. Rachel Locke is director of the Violence, Inequality, and Power Lab at USD's Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice, which conducted the survey. She says the vitriol is leaving its mark on people in office. They shared with her examples of what those around them were saying.
I'm being told to toughen up. I'm being told to have thicker skin. I'm being told this really isn't a problem, but I can't sleep at night. I don't feel safe. I'm worried where I go in my community. Am I crazy? right? Am I crazy to feel these ways?
Similar to women and racial minorities in last year's survey, conservative white male politicians now report threats are worsening, and they are afraid. John Porton, a research manager at the Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice, says the harassers may be buoyed by their own success and want to expand.
We don't know exactly how to puzzle through that yet, but the conclusion that we've drawn looking at our results and some results across the country that say similar things is that there was a group of people that were seen as easy targets. And now the threats and harassment have started to move out from those groups. If it worked to intimidate these people, there's no reason that we can't intimidate others.
Porton says the poll also showed 25% of office holders censor what they say publicly to shield themselves from harassment. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
Amita Sharma also recently reported on the rise of incivility and public comment at San Diego County Board of Supervisors meeting. You can watch that series and all of our other locally produced stories on our KPBS YouTube page. Subscribe and get notified when new content is posted. Sailors on the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln will get to enjoy some extra creature comforts during their upcoming deployment. That is thanks to a partnership between the Navy and the USO. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer got a look at the new lounge and has this.
Access to phones, internet, and video games are a given part of everyday life. But for sailors deployed on Navy warships, they become luxuries. These ships are designed for fighting, not comfort after all. But starting last year on the USS George H.W. Bush, the USO is installing its own USO centers on board aircraft carriers. Captain Pete Reeby is the commanding officer of the Lincoln. He says the idea is to give sailors and Marines a space away from their busy work lives while at sea.
This is all about taking care of our sailors, and Marines. It sort of takes advantage of some of our Wi-Fi capabilities on the ship and increases that for a space for them to, sort of unwind and rest and recharge.
The San Diego-based aircraft carrier is now the first local carrier to have a USO center installed. It officially opened with a ceremony Monday. Over about a month and at a cost to the USO north of $200,000, what used to be the ship's library transformed into a cozy lounge. There's a small movie theater, several video game stations, soundproof phone booths, and even an artificial fireplace.
Between the flooring and the paint and the decor, it's sort of a demilitarized zone. A sort of, it just screams homey comfort, not worship.
The Lincoln's Lounge is the fifth such lounge the USO's installed on an aircraft carrier. The congressionally chartered nonprofit relies on donations to fund the shipboard centers. 60% of the Lincoln's crew are younger than 24. Reeby says that means the service has to adapt to the needs of this generation of sailors if it wants to attract and keep people in uniform.
If you are not ready to evolve and change with today's youth, you're probably not fit to lead an organization like this.
The USO says 3 more carriers will have centers installed this year. If all goes to plan, all 11 carriers will have their own USO centers by the end of 2025. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
We now know which Albertson stores would be sold if a proposed merger with Kroger goes through. The list includes 11 Albertsons, Pavilions, and Vaughn stores here in San Diego County, and they are in Carlsbad, Del Mar, El Cajon, La Jolla, Santee, Spring Valley, and in the city of San Diego. The $24.6 billion merger is being challenged by the FTC, which claims the proposal would lead to higher grocery prices and could negatively affect workers. The United Food and Commercial Workers Union also released a statement saying that it opposes the merger. Earlier this year, President Biden announced efforts to ramp up EV and plug-in hybrid production to cut down on car emissions. The administration even offered tax breaks to people who buy them. But despite the push for more environmentally friendly cars, as Jen Sullivan explains, sales are still waning.
Fewer people appear to be buying electric vehicles. That's according to a new study by AAA. They recently conducted a survey about EV sales and found only 18% of U.S. adults say they're very likely or likely to buy an EV as their next car.
That's a bit shocking.
Greg Brannon from AAA says he was really surprised by those numbers because more companies are making EVs, giving consumers more options.
We were really expecting that to be kind of a tipping point for it, and that the interest and demand would start to increase, but we've definitely seen the opposite.
According to the survey, the biggest issues for consumers are high purchase price, high cost of battery repair, lack of convenient charging stations, and not being able to install a charging station where they live. When it comes to price, electric cars vary drastically from just under $30,000 to well over $100,000, according to U.S. News and World Report.
The price is definitely a concern for people, but it's not the only concern. There's a lot of challenges around charging and concern about how people use the vehicles.
But if you do choose to buy an electric vehicle, there are tax benefits. You can get a credit of $7,500 if you purchase a new EV or plug-in hybrid, and $4,000 for a used one. Some experts in the EV industry are optimistic the lag in sales will change.
I think you're going to see new sales continue to tick back up. But right now, with interest rates and just the high cost of a new car, it's not surprising to me that people are opting for a used car at a better price point.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Oceanside businesses and restaurants can no longer distribute styrofoam packaging. The polystyrene foam ban is now in effect. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen has reactions from local businesses.
Styrofoam is actually very detrimental to the environment.
Roxana Pavel is the owner of All Mine Pizza in Oceanside. She's been in business here for 2 years and has never used styrofoam product. While compostable to-go containers may be a bit more expensive,
Probably pennies.
she says that's just part of doing business.
That includes rent, labor, food, and to-go containers. So anything that we pay that we actually give to a consumer, we transfer that cost and we build it into our products. I think in the long run, it's definitely cheaper because the cost of the impact to the environment is much higher.
She says 10 years ago, it was harder to find compostable containers, but now they're available from almost every major supplier. Nearby at Matsu, owner William Ike also supports the ban.
We're actually really excited for it because we want to be a very sustainable and conscious restaurant.
He also uses compostable containers, and he hopes the ban will encourage his suppliers to ditch polystyrene or styrofoam as well. Fresh seafood is shipped to his restaurant in styrofoam containers for temperature control.
We're excited to see how they handle that, and maybe we can reuse the containers that they do come in, or we can send them back to them and they can reuse them and make it a little more sustainable.
The problem with styrofoam containers is that when you finish with your food and throw in the trash, it doesn't always stay in the trash. It can end up on the beach and break down to these microplastics that end up in the ocean.
Fish eat this, we eat the fish. Plastic is already in my body, it's in your body, it's in the body of everyone viewing. So it's really important that local cities step up and take action to reduce it in our environment.
Mitch Silverstein with the Surfrider Foundation says that's why the ban in Oceanside is part of the city's marine debris reduction ordinance. It's something that the Surfrider Foundation has been pushing for years. It's the most picked up item during the group's beach cleanup events.
Seagulls can get into it, but also it's toxic for humans.
Styrofoam is the first phase of the ordinance. Come January, Oceanside will also ban single-use plastic bags. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
And be sure to get the latest news from North County delivered right into your inbox. That is just one of the KPBS newsletters that we offer, along with breaking news, arts, and top headlines. You can sign up on our website, kpbs.org.
Well, we've been dealing with some extreme heat, and this heat wave is persistently holding across almost the entire western U.S. Into the beginning of the weekend. So through the rest of the week, we will be dealing with searing heat inland. The relief can be found near the coastline, and the low clouds that return almost every night are going to be persisting into the morning, giving us even a little more relief into the morning hours here near the coast. Like the refrigerator door is open here. Our friend the Pacific Ocean helping us out, at least in San Diego proper. But the heat will begin to back off for those in the interior. It'll begin to back off over the weekend. Tonight, we're on the road to 67 with some low clouds near the coast, mainly clear inland. And through Thursday evening, excessive heat warnings continue for all inland areas. To the north, you can see heat advisories in the lighter shade of orange, but inland San Diego County just locked into the excessive heat warnings as this excessive heat holds. And we've seen some tremendous heat in many areas with some spots, for example, like Las Vegas, breaking its all-time record high with this heat wave earlier this week at 120 degrees back on Sunday. Well, tomorrow we're looking at another hot one. Ramona, 103 degrees. Look at that there in Ramona, California. The thermometer's on the map there. 119 at Abrego Springs. Just tremendous heat. Campo, 100 degrees. Escondido, 96. El Cajon, 93. It's going to be a hot time. And we're knocking on the door of 80, upper 70s into the city. So the pattern's going to hold in the southwest here through Friday. There will be some relief in the Pacific Northwest. That's just the beginning of a hint of improvement that will soon come. So for the coast, we're going to be up again, ranging between 79 and 80 to 82 degrees, depending on specifically where you are on Wednesday afternoon. 82 on Thursday, a little less hot into Friday. And you can see we're just slowly nosing away from the worst of the heat into Sunday. It's still going to be warm out there. Inland areas into the mid-90s Wednesday, low to mid-90s Thursday, backing down into the mid to upper 80s Saturday and Sunday. Very steamy. Into the mountains, we're still into the mid-80s. Very hot Wednesday, backing down into the mid-70s come Saturday. Still warm out there this weekend. And into the deserts, the worst of the heat, just torrid heat here on Wednesday and Thursday. 119 degrees, backing down to 106 on Sunday. I'm AccuWeather's Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the News Hour, political pressures mount for Democratic lawmakers amid questions about Biden's re-election bid. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
There is a growing push by some of the nation's largest companies to focus on skills that are not often taught in universities. It comes as the cost of college continues to soar. Athena Jones reports on this push and how it might help bridge a racial gap in the U.S.
24-year-old Amari Morgan has been an associate controls technician at General Motors for 2.5 years. Morgan tests the robots that build the vehicles and fixes software issues.
It's to keep unexpected surprises from happening.
Her favorite part of the job?
Being able to see these machines do their job. It's very interesting. Getting hands-on experience, working with them, and learning from my other teammates is very rewarding.
Hands-on experience that did not require a college degree.
I didn't expect it to happen so quickly.
And why not?
Just schooling. I figured the quick way to get there would just be go to school, do your 4-year degree, and then eventually getting the reward of working inside this environment.
62% of all U.S. workers age 25 and older, and 72% of black workers do not have a bachelor's degree.
Making it harder to get good-paying jobs and contributing to the racial wealth gap, which Federal Reserve data shows grew to a difference of more than $240,000 between a typical white family and a typical black family in 2022.
Fortunately for Morgan, General Motors is part of 110, a coalition of some 70 Fortune 500 companies at the forefront of the Skills First movement, an approach to hiring that focuses on skills over college degrees.
We're trying to sort of level the playing field.
Founded in 2020, the coalition has an ambitious goal: place 1 million black and other workers who don't have a bachelor's degree into good-paying, family-sustaining jobs in 10 years.
It's not a degree that's going to be the golden ticket. It's going to be the skills that are required to get you the job that hopefully puts you on a sustainable path.
More young people are rethinking a 4-year degree, given the rising cost of college and taking on debt. A report by the Gates Foundation found confidence in the value of a college degree fell from 2022 to 2023 among non-college graduates aged 18 to 30, while confidence in the value of job training and professional licensing programs went up. Morgan enrolled in community college in 2019. Just as she was wrapping up her first semester, the pandemic struck, derailing her plans. So she took jobs in retail.
Something about being an engineer and being in technology just kept calling to me.
And she struggled to save money. She soon found a tuition-free technology training program run by a partner in 110's Talent Development Network, helping connect companies like GM with workers trained in specific skills, like coding. Morgan is now working to master the JavaScript programming language and still hopes to one day earn a bachelor's degree. But for now, she credits this job with boosting her confidence, providing financial security and peace of mind.
Having programs like this actually spread the word that no, jobs are looking for your experience. You know, you don't have to have this fancy degree behind it. You could just come as you are.
And that was Athena Jones with that report. We're getting our first look at the San Diego Zoo's newest residents. The zoo shared these awesome pictures of the two giant pandas from China, showing how each are getting along at their own new home. Yoon Chen-yoon is nearly 5 years old and was born to a mother who originally came from the San Diego Zoo herself. And the zoo says he loves exploring and climbing trees. Xing Bao is nearly 4-year-old female, and she likes sunbathing and also eating her favorite foods, which are fresh bamboo and a traditional Chinese bun known as panda bread. Adorable. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition is discussing whether non-alcoholic beverages that look or taste like beer and liquor should have age limits. And KPBS Midday Edition has an update on the status of reparations bills making their way through the California legislature. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Previs Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.